Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. I just lost a photo, and I hate Caleb because he, I don't know, he's just so Caleb-y, and it really just, I don't know, it irks me. But yeah, we Caleb who? That's funny. Yeah, that is not the low proof we were talking about. Caleb's barrel proof, and that's for sure. Caleb, how did oh, dude, you're wearing your one-time shirt. No wonder you won
Yeah,
the
dude, I'm wearing the
photo.
one-time shirt.
Goodness gracious, guaranteed to work 100% of the time.
60% of the time, works every time.
Yeah, that was a rough little photo.
Yeah, that's a tough beat. Yeah, like in real time, I thought the 6 had it, but then on the replay, I thought maybe the 1. But the angles at Turfway are just so wonky that I feel like I never really know.
Yeah, the photo wasn't even close. I just saw the photo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was probably a clear nose.
Well, the cameraman showed the 6 on the gallop out, so like, yeah, they're not always right, but I mean, he seemed to think it was a 6 in real time, also. I guess.
Although, don't you remember the other day there was that photo, and like there was absolutely no angle where my outside 11 horse got there, and like they put him up, and I was just
I
like,
do. So I think like
have
half
no
the
idea.
Discord had the horse that he beat actually. So you were not a popular man after that.
Yeah. Nick Feldman saying, "Look at man, playing small ball, hit $1 pick 3 and an $8 ticket, paid $1,400. Is that is that
Ooh.
taxable?
No. Oh, $8 ticket.
Is it 300 to 1 or 600 to 1? All right, let's get the actual tax man in here. What's
it's
taxable?
I think it's 300.
It's 300 to 1, 300 to 1 odds. So that should not be a signer. No.
Isn't 8 times 300? Oh,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I should probably be able to do math correctly.
Math is hard. That's why you have HTR.
Yeah, great. HTR gets me to that 1. Apparently gets Caleb to that 6, and I finished second once again. So
you said you're gonna start place betting, right?
Yeah, right. Like what did I say? Right? It's just like clockwork. I say, oh, I'm gonna start place betting this, and sure enough, I run second once again. Nick also saying he just got knocked out of the pick 5 at Turfway in like 2, but he had that 16 to 1. So apparently there's something there I missed.
Yeah, and Uncle Sally here. Tarot cards. Tarot cards are clearly the only way to bet Turfway because nothing else makes any sense there. I do not. I know some people, and we all know some people who are extremely talented at capping that track. I have absolutely no idea how they do it. I've asked them. They give me very cryptic answers and don't want to divulge their secrets, and good for them, but it is just a tough place to cap.
I'm just picturing that Frodo meme from Lord of the Rings where he's like, fine then, keep your secrets.
This is who cares about Caleb's opinion for Gulfstream. We have the king. Mark eats chalk.
I mean, I don't think I'm eating too much chalk, so I mean, maybe. But
real quick, Caleb, who did you like in this next race? Did you like this 3?
At Turfway?
Yeah.
HTR absolutely loves the 3, so I used him, and I also like the 5.
Yeah, that's where I landed. I was 1, 3, 5, and then I singled the 3 in the last leg. So
I gave a long look to the 2, who I figured, last race is a throw out. Second off might improve, but Landeris at a short price is always tough for me, even here.
Mark is. I would ask Mark what he likes at Delta, but Mark is, I think, on a break right now from Delta because he says it's not being nice to him.
No. I played a pick 3 back, but that 4 in the last leg I just thought was a really hard horse to get to given the track conditions. Horse had never really shown any form of the offgoing and didn't seem to really handle it well. And yes, I mean it's Delta's plan a little odd. It's not as biased. It seems to be playing more fair than it normally does, and it's the whole thing of as you get better at handicapping, you want more biases that you can play into instead of tracks that play fair that are logical. So just not finding the prices like I normally do, which is frustrating.
Speaking of Delta, Caleb, what are you doing Saturday night?
Probably betting Delta, given that introduction you just gave me.
Yeah, so we right now we're planning on doing a stream on Saturday, kind of splitting up our live betting and our handicapping here. So we will be continuing our contest. Mark, what is your total at? Are you rebuying in?
Oh, I'm rebuying. Yeah,
You're rebuying in. Caleb, what is your total at?
I think I'm rebuying it also.
All right. And I'm at like $600. I got to double check. But yeah,
That's a
I lost
really
because
good
I lost
card on-
200. Huh?
It's a really good card Saturday.
Yeah.
Louisiana Bred Stakes card. Good stuff.
And Turfway. It's a shame that Sam Houston has not returned to Knights yet. But congratulations to Sam Houston for finally getting. Well, not Sam Houston, but the Texas for finally deciding to not take their ball and go home, but go back and show their face sheepishly. And so we'll have.
Do we know what actually happened? Like, did Texas Horse Racing Commission change their rules? Did a judge throw out HISA? Like, do we know how it got resolved? Because all I know is apparently
I would imagine after their big stakes night when they had a 95% reduction in handle, they went, oh, maybe this isn't going to work out for us. That would be my guess.
They're basically saying that the judgment got thrown out, that HISA is constitutional, and so they're going to follow their own rules. Which sounds a lot like what Louisiana basically did.
Right.
And it's something we talked about on Drinking Champagne last night was, hey, Louisiana has been super against all the stuff in HISA, but they are still broadcasting their signal. They are still, they're figuring it out, right? Like there was no reason for this 6 months or whatever of just completely annihilating Texas racing. I mean, Sam Houston did basically what Canterbury Park did, clawing their way to getting increased handle by lowering takeout in very select bets, having full turf fields, doing all this stuff. I don't know how much handle is going to come back. I mean, I'm going to bet it still, but they were doing. Are you think they're going to get all 90 to 95% of the handle they lost? I don't know.
Probably not.
No, I think there'll be people that'll be spiteful about it and that have moved on to other places or, throwing their hands up in disgust because, I mean, it's one of those things that, yeah, okay, they're back, but do you really trust it? It's back long term. Do you want to really invest that effort into picking the track back up, putting volume through it? Yeah, I would imagine they'll probably get, 75% of it back, but I would imagine there's going to be some percentage that just says F you and, takes their ball and goes home.
Yeah. So, so this week they're still running during the day. And then they said that they will announce what they're going to do after this weekend. I think just because it was too late to change anything. But my guess is that they are going to go back to their nighttime spot. But, we'll see. But, yeah, we'll be back. We'll be doing our bankroll building in Bourbon. We'll figure out a start time. There might be a chance to maybe incorporate Golden Hour or last couple races in Santa Anita. We'll see what the start times look like, but yeah, Nick asking what the buy-in is. So the goal is you start with $50 and you turn into $1,000. And I was at $910, thinking I was just gonna bet a 2-1 Charlestown winner home and get this thing over with. And then I proceeded to lose that, and then lose another $250. So yeah, we are. Yeah, well, it's been. I thought I was going to close this thing out. I was hoping that maybe Mark would just give up, but Mark is a persistent son of a bitch. Caleb could care less either way. But yeah, we'll be betting. We'll be betting something on Friday night or Saturday night. We'll figure out a time. But here we go. So Uncle Sully here saying he consulted the Magic 8 Ball and he's told the 8 horse in the 7th race was highly likely to win. I'm guessing he's talking about Turfway there. Turfway, I really like the 3 in this next race, so I'll probably have a little win bet here. But yeah, we're gonna focus on Mark's favorite track. Uh, although it's funny, Mark. You know, I mean, I think Caleb might hate Gulfstream more than you, but I think Caleb started to come around on it a little bit. Um, but you think you love this card? You think that there's some good plays in here? You think this is a good tournament
Yeah, I
card
think
to
that
play?
if you get close to morning line, which almost is never the case at Gulfstream, I think it consistently has pretty bad morning lines. But if you get near morning line, there's definitely some really interesting, price plays or types of price plays that I would look at building around in this card. And I mean, my take on Gulfstream has always been I'm not a huge Gulfstream fan. It's not my favorite track to play, but I will say these bigger days when they have big competitive fields, it's not the worst product ever. I'm happy when it's over. I would never play Gulfstream on a random Thursday because it's just how you burn money. But it's spot playable at times if you pick the bigger cards.
I've been burning money.
I'll admit I like it better since they put in the synthetic surface. Believe it or not, I know a lot of people would not agree with that, but for me, like I think it plays fair, and I kind of I like that better than their dirt actually.
Yeah, I think the synthetic, like I said, I think the rumor about Belmont putting in that third surface, I think all weather works amazing as a third surface. Don't get rid of the dirt, right? But I feel like all weather can be a singular surface, kind of how Turfway does it, kind of how Woodbine does for most of the year once the turf is done. But yeah, I mean, hey, have all three surfaces. That allows you to have as many turf races as possible. If it does get washed off, you don't get as many scratches going to the synthetic. It's not a 1-to-1, right? But I feel like most trainers will not scratch out a horse completely if it goes to synthetic. So
You saw the
I
news from today, right, Josh?
what?
Hochul, the governor, part of her budget has $455 million for renovations at Belmont. So there's a lot of talk that part of that will be putting in a synthetic track.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody's playing the game of it. Does that become long-term closed down aqueduct? Or is this just, I mean, the Belmont Grandstand is way too big, with the exception of one day a year. And it does not have modern amenities. It is not a nice, comfortable, easy to watch races from grandstand. So hopefully they make it a little more modern. They kind of right size it, make it a better place to be. But yeah, so, and we'll see where this leads. I think everybody's leaning on that. Oh, this is going to close down aqueduct, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
I mean, like, think about this, right? Belmont or Aqueduct, whatever. If they had the three surfaces, right, and it starts getting cold out, and they have to stop running on the turf like they always do every year. I mean, if they run half the races on dirt, half on synthetic, how many more horses stay in New York?
A lot. Yep, a lot. Yeah. And I'll say, and I mean, Mike saying in comments, Aqueduct is a done deal. It's gone. I don't think that's the case quite yet. I mean, I realize there's a massive real estate value there. But you already have a casino there, which I don't think is going to go anywhere. And with how the licenses are structured now, to have the casino due to that type of opening, they need to have the racetrack there. They could make the meet more boutique. They could move a lot of those days to Belmont, but they still have to have the racing days. So we'll see. But I think everybody's like, oh, Aqueduct's dead in 5 years or something. I don't think that's the case. I think it may eventually end up that way, but I think it's a long ways out.
All right, but let's get to actually handicapping some races here. Gulfstream Park started the pick 5. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at this pick 5. We were gonna maybe talk about the swale, but I don't know. It doesn't look like a very interesting race to me. So we'll just kind of look at this pick 5. This was a little interesting, and I think this is the problem, right? This is the structure problem, the handicapping problem, right? You got two very, very short price horses in this race, and the 1 Tap Trice, and the 7 Shesterkin, I guess.
That's what I'd say.
Mark, can you pronounce it, please?
I was going to go with Shesterkin. So we know that it's not Shesterkin. So whatever you said, we'll go with whatever you said.
Yeah. But yeah, I I I couldn't get past the short prices in this race. I kind of was between the one, um, the 1 and the 7, and ultimately I landed on the 7. But I don't know. The presence of this race kind of makes this. I don't know. It makes the pick five sequence a little. I don't know, a little less interesting to me. Like I hate these types of races where you get the two short price favorites. You don't want to use both of them, but you also don't want to get boomed. And I don't know. I think this is one of the places that you got to make a stand. But I don't know. I kind of just like close my eyes and pick the 7 here. But I don't know. Caleb, where did you kind of land this race?
Yeah, I think that between the two Pletchers, I significantly prefer the 7, Shesterkin. I just think that this is a horse that has a little more upside. He's only been out once and did break his maiden at Lone Try, whereas Tapit Trice sort of already had that second start and already has that improvement. Additionally, I think Tapit Trice looks like a horse that might need some pace in front of him, and I'm not really sure that he's going to get it in this race. There doesn't seem to be a ton of speed signed on in here. So I do think that Justurkin is likely to set a nice trip, probably get out to the front, and might just take him all the way. But if not, with Irad on the outside post, you have plenty of options if he chooses to sit back a little bit. The only other horse that I kind of looked at in here was the number 3 Classic Car Wash. And this is the kind of horse that I'm like probably not going to use equally with the 7, but that I probably will have on a ticket somewhere. It didn't show much in debut back in July of his 2-year-old season, but came back in the winter and was a much improved horse. Ran a little Z pattern in that maiden breaker, crushing a field by 8 lengths, and then came back to wire a field over the synthetic surface against Florida Breds. So definitely getting a class test here, but there really aren't any monsters from a class perspective in this race. It's a lot of maidens or last out maiden winners or Florida Breds or whatever. So there's no real standouts in here. So I'm not as concerned about the class test as I might otherwise be in a different race or a different running here. So I think that if Irad takes back on the 7, the 3 is probably the next likeliest horse that might get out there on the lead. And even if he doesn't, I think that the 3 is able to win from off the pace like we saw 2 starts ago. So I thought Classic Car Wash was interesting. It's not easy to wire that synthetic, and I know he did it with some moderate fractions, but he's a horse that I think I would maybe be a little bit interested in. Maybe it's like a B type.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up on the same Todd that everybody else ended up on in Chesterkin, or however we're saying it right now. I think my logic here is that they both run similar figures. I just think that better, Todd Pletcher horses in the end of December are running in Gulfstream than they are at Aqueduct. So I would imagine this is with the more highly thought of the two, just given where the horse has been campaigned and should be pretty much controlling speed in this race. I don't see anybody else that has enough speed to kind of go with the 7, unless they massively change tactics from what they've shown before. So I ended up in the same horse everybody else did. And the one price that I do think is a little bit interesting in here, and sometimes I think Nick Feldman reads my notes, and that is the 2 horse in here. Hard to handle. This is the good old kitchen sink type horse. They have absolutely are trying everything with this horse. This horse has been gelded since the last start, getting Lasix for the first time, coming back to a 1-turn race at a medium distance. And I thought those some of those back races were actually pretty decent. That 7 furlong maiden score was a fairly okay race before they started stretching this one out. I don't really know what to make of the last race beyond the just sometimes you just draw a line through a race. So I thought that this horse, the 2 hard to handle, was somewhat interesting here. I don't know if this is necessarily a classic distance horse. This one might just end up being that sort of 7 furlong mile type. But given that's what we're running today at a bit of a hand, you're going to get a pretty substantial price, I would imagine. I thought hard to handle was a little interesting.
Yeah, Nick Feldman saying, yeah, he likes it getting back to 1-turn race at medium distance. So yeah, he's looking at the 7 furlong race, a couple back there, the maiden breaker.
Yep,
So
that maiden breaker.
yeah.
Yeah, both Time Form really liked that maiden breaking score, and it also came back good on BSF. Now, yeah, you do have to kind of make excuses for the next couple of races where the horse just really didn't show as nearly as much as you'd expect. But if is that just simply a case of liking the one turn and not handling the two turn? So.
Yeah, I do want to go back to an earlier comment to talk about something just like super important. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes we don't talk about this enough. Um, Mike coming in saying that he's drinking Phrase Ranch as a 4 grain here. Mark, what are you drinking?
I ended up with a little bit of Abelor. Doing
Apple
my
12, okay.
yeah, the 12. It's just I don't know. It's just a nice, easy drinker. It just makes me happy.
Mark, what's the tagline on our videos?
On whose
Right, this is
videos?
handicapping, right? There's
Yeah,
wagering
wagering and
and
bourbon. Yeah, I failed.
scotch.
I know. I know.
PDT just turned off the video.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think Abelor 12 was the one that Mark got him to drink when they hung out at PDT's local. It was one of the Abelors, I think, that got
Yeah, it was one of the
PDT.
Abelers. It wasn't the 12. It was they go 14 or 15? Whatever the more expensive Abelor was, and he really liked it, and we got him into scotch. So, all my fault.
What do you got there, Caleb?
I just got a little Midwinter's Night's Dram from a bottle Mark
Oh
sent
my
over a little
goodness,
while
this
ago.
bougie
How
ass
what do
mother.
you think of that?
I like it. I mean, I really like their stuff though. It's not as good as the bottle I had maybe 2 years ago. I didn't have last year's bottle, so I can't say. But yeah, it's good. But it's not probably as good as I think the bottle 2 years ago was, which I think was Act 7. I want to say. I can't remember.
I can remember you raving about that bottle from 2 years ago for like
Mm-hmm.
literally a year. Like that's all I heard about was, oh, this is amazing, and you just absolutely loved it. So
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's a very good rye.
Yeah, I have a barrel whiskey private release. This was a selection from Reddit, the bourbon subreddit on there. So it's bourbon, but it has to be called whiskey because bourbon has to be in a new barrel. And this is finished in a Barbados rum cask. So it's very rummy. Um, so if you like rum, I think rum from the couple of kind of finished bourbons I've had, I feel like the rum ones are the ones that you really really get the finish in.
So you
Um,
give me crap about not drinking a bourbon, and you're not drinking a bourbon, and it's finished in rum,
it's a
which is
bourbon,
also not
but it's a
bourbon,
bourbon finished in a rum cask. It's
making it
still,
therefore not bourbon.
I mean, it started as bourbon.
Isn't it technically just a whiskey at that point?
I mean, I guess that's what's on the bottle, but it was
So wait,
selected by our bourbon.
what's our tagline, Josh? Okay.
Anyways, so back to yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I think that we could probably do. There might be maybe there's something deeper here. Maybe I'm being very surface level in my handicapping. I'll come back to this race probably Saturday morning and kind of take a deeper look. But I don't know. First pass, I had a hard time getting past the 7. I think we all kind of like the 7 here. 2 and 3, I think little interest there as well. So, oh, here we go. Yeah, we've got more bourbon talk here.
I was reading the comment from Nick about the blind tasting.
Eagle Rare versus Old Granddad Bottle and Bond versus Kirkland Bottle and Bond versus Russell's 10-year. And this is not surprising. Old Granddad
Wow.
won and
A
Eagle
lot of
Rare
people like
second.
Granddad. That's not totally surprising. If you said like
Where did
Kirkland's, I'd have been surprised. But
I'm saying, where did the Russell finish there? Was Russell third? I would imagine. I always liked Russell. So
I've had store picks, 1 or 2 store picks that have been very, very good. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to grab like the regular Russells. And that was a hard bottle to finish. I don't know if it just
Oh.
happened to be that bottle. I mean, and this is someone I like Wild Turkey. I like their stuff. So it's very interesting. I am a big fan of Knob Creek stuff. So Knob Creek or Jim Beam rather. Jim Beam, Knob Creek, Booker's, Old Granddad. So I wouldn't be surprised if I did a blind if I picked Old Granddad over Eagle Rare. I love Eagle Rare. It's probably the bottle if I had, if it was at MSRP, would probably be. I probably wouldn't have as much bourbon if Eagle
It's
Rare
the best
existed.
like quality to dollar like at MSRP. I think at that $32, $33 thing range.
Yeah, but I much prefer to Buffalo Trace, and Buffalo Trace is cheaper. But yeah, it's a shame. I mean, well, I was talking to somebody about this. 10 years ago with beer, it was kind of God, I had to read that comment. So with craft beer, there was a time where it's like they had their yearly releases and you couldn't get the stuff, and they couldn't produce enough of it. And it's been a couple years, and now I was at Goose Island this past weekend, and they just had, not only did they have the stuff that came out this year, but they had cellared versions of previous vintages, right? So I was drinking a bottle from 2014. I had a bottle from 2018. I was able to buy one and take one home and pay a reasonable price for it. So I think eventually it'll get to a point where this stuff is on the shelves again, but it's right now it's tough. And I thought at a certain point it would kind of level off. I haven't seen a bottle of Buffalo Trace in about a year. It's insane.
How much do you want? How much do you want? I got I was just at my local and they have 2 cases of it.
Well, maybe I don't know. I was gonna say maybe I'll have you bring some in Vegas, but you can actually buy it on the Strip. You can go to the ABC store and buy it on the Strip. It's just
At
a weird
retail?
thing. A 375 is going for $20.
So not retail. Okay.
Not retail, but for Vegas pricing is also
Yeah.
not terrible because that comes out to
We've talked about this. I remember now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just between choosing Channel Maker and rummy bourbon, I guess.
That's a great comment.
Yeah. Who ended up winning at Turfway?
The 5 did.
The 5. I got a small double going to the 3 next race, but
yeah.
Are you in Slow, Feldman? I didn't realize you were you're down there, the middle of nowhere.
All right, race 9 here. Kitten's Joy, Grade 3, going to mile 16th on the turf here at Gulfstream Park. I think our Morning favorite is going to be the 1 in this case. Candidate, no, the 4 Major Dude is in that 5-2. The 1 Candidate is at 3-1. You got a couple horses, Lights of Broadway and Congruent at 5-1. Dude in Colorado at 6-1. Suzak 8-1, and then you got a couple double digits in Boppy O and Mooncat. Mark, where did you land here?
Of course, you catch me while I'm typing something. Yeah, so I ended up with a bit of an outsider in here. Well, I don't want to say outsider, baby price that I absolutely love, and if I'm playing this sequence, I'm going to be building everything around that horse, and that's the number 2 Suzak. This horse is, Candidate's fine. Candidate has won 3 in a row. This is definitely a bit of a class test and could definitely win this. But when you're talking about Suzak, you're talking about a horse that won 3 in a row at overseas in France. Won a race at Deauville to break maiden, then won an allowance at Lyon, and then went to Longchamp and got up by a nose on the Arc undercard in a race that's a $294,000 allowance. So really, that's effectively a black type stakes is how we'd look at it. And if you watch the trip on that last race at Gulfstream, that was absolutely brutal. The horse got absolutely mugged come out of the gate, hit the rail on the upper stretch, and honestly ran pretty damn well to finish 5th by 7 3/4. Rosario stays up. This is a horse that's going to be coming from out of it, probably still trying to figure out the U.S. racing. It is a little different with how they load the gates and how the races shape up. But I love to see that Graham Motion gives us another shot in a stakes. This was probably the target race all along. I don't imagine that the last one was. And I really think this horse could be really, really good. Pedigree's there and everything else you would want. So I am very, very, very high on Suzak in this spot. And anywhere near 8-1, I don't think I'm going to get anywhere near 8-1. I would be very interested in even just a straight win bet at those kind of odds.
Did you notice how like dejected Mark was when he's like, Rosario stays on?
I was a little. He's riding better. He's not like peak FU Rosario form, but he's been riding a little better the past probably 2 weeks. So
Caleb, you also like Suzak here?
I do actually. Yeah, so I had the 1 and the 2 here as kind of the 2 horses I wanted to use. I like Suzak for pretty much all the reasons Mark said, except for the fact that Rosario stays. I agree. The trip was rough. I mean, the horse got very rank when he took that bump or pretty early on in the race. I probably am not quite as eager to go all in on this horse simply because all those races overseas came over some pretty soft turf, and he had excuses in that last race to be sure, but it still kind of remains to be seen how he's going to handle this very firm Gulfstream turf. So while I do like him, I don't think he's going to be a single or anything like that for me. The other horse I did like though was the 1 Candidate, and there's nothing really creative about that. I don't think he's just a horse that likes to win. I mean, he's rattled off 3 in a row at 3 different tracks. He has a lot of early speed. He has a cozy little inside draw here. And yeah, I mean, there's probably a little bit of other speed in this race. Maybe the 6th dude in Colorado might try to go, or perhaps Bapio gets aggressive. I don't know. I mean, I think he probably gets the same trip he had last time, and yeah, it may look like Major Dude was kind of making up ground late, which relative to the rest of the field, he was, but Candidate was by far the best horse in that race. I don't think Major Dude was ever getting past Candidate. And I just think this is a horse that's in really good form right now, as it improved in each start. And it's really hard to find the knock against him. So yeah, I like Candidate to do the thing up front. And if for some reason he does get a lot of pace pressure, I think Suzak is the horse I would want coming from off the pace.
You think that Candidate ends up on the lead here?
I do.
Okay. I didn't really know. I know that that's sort of he's inherited the lead in every other start. I don't know if he's a desperate need the lead type. But I'm looking at the time form pace projector, and they don't have him making the lead here. Not even close to it. They say the 4, the 6, and the 8 all having more early foot. So I didn't know what to make of how you thought the pace dynamic shaped out.
I think the 4. I mean, if you put the 4 over the 1, I'm not sure what to tell you. Couldn't make the lead in front of him last time. Irad Ortiz is not going to send this horse, I don't think. So I mean, Candidate has the rail with Gaffleon. Yeah, he did sort of win off the pace 2 back, but like he was second by a length. So I don't think they're going to try to create anything different, especially from the inside post here. I think he goes now. Maybe if Saez gets like very aggressive on the 6, I could see. Pletcher has 2. Maybe he sends this one to, make sure that Candidate stays honest up front. I mean, something like that I could see. But, I do think that Candidate probably gets the lead and maybe has some company, but I think he's going to be involved.
Yeah, no, I agreed with that. My thought was more that I thought the 6 probably makes the lead more so than the 4. That's how the pace projector had it. I was assuming that the 6 is sent, given that Pletcher does have 2 in here, and I would imagine he's putting the jock up, who is the very known for putting people to sleep on the front end of turf races. So
Yeah, I actually landed on the 5 Lights of Broadway here in this race. I think maybe I'm putting too much stock into that last fig, but the horse had 3 starts on synthetic. Broke its maiden going a mile here in the synthetic, and then won a listed stakes race for 65,000, and then they put him into the pulpit here, going 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and it was kind of an oddly run race. The pace was really, really slow. And Lights of Broadway had to kind of make a trip in that race because he had no pace in front of him. And I thought he still closed well in to finish second there. So I don't know. That Fig came back pretty strong, especially on Briz. I was talking with Mark beforehand. He said a little bit slower, a couple points slower on Buyer and on Time Form, but I think the horse fits right in there. I think you're gonna get a fair price here at 5 to 1. So kind of an alternative to the the shorter prices. I really want nothing to do with this four. So this four, let's see if I can get to it quick enough. But I do think there's an arm for this one. I believe this is a takeout reduce here on the four. I'm not totally in love with your guys' one, but I definitely think that the one is a much bigger player than this four major dude is. So I landed on the five, and then I could definitely be talked into using the one a little bit. I did see though that Nick Feldman's got an interesting long shot here. The horse Mooncat. He also said that there's a little bit of a baby Z pattern in this race, so I'm surprised Caleb's not all over it. I guess
I mean, that is true. I did kind of notice that. I didn't bring it up just because even with the Z pattern, the race came back pretty slow. But I think this horse will be a big price, and I do like a Z pattern. And I'm also, personally, I'm always a little bit skeptical of figs on speed figures on turf racing in general, but I'm especially skeptical of them at Gulfstream, and probably like triply so in the 7.5 furlong configuration. They have so many timing issues at that configuration. So yeah, I don't really, like Josh's horse. That was kind of my knock on him, is I just don't trust the figure. I think it's too high. Perhaps this horse is too low. So yeah, I think this is a live price for sure. I don't hate that take all.
Yeah, I think that Mooncat is interesting just in the fact that you're probably going to get double the morning line, given the fact that a rad hops off. Horses on paper, hasn't run a figure yet that's near competitive with probably the 3 or 4 top contenders, but lightly raced horse. This is the third start of this horse's career. Only the second start on turf. Obviously, they were trying to get turf the first time out. This horse, I think, has every right to step forward. And I also think, given that pedigree, this is a horse that should like the stretch out as well, which may move the figures up. So, I really like his price play. I think Mooncat makes a lot of interesting, or is very interesting horse in this spot. You need the right price, but the works as of late have seemed really good, and horse is probably primed. And again, Junior getting up doesn't scare me at all. I would imagine that a rad was told, you're gonna ride for Papa Todd, and that's how it's gonna be. So, but, Junior's a very workable turf horse and or turf jock, and I very much, he's somebody I like to bet at Saratoga a lot because he gets very much overlooked on the turf, which I think he's gonna get a similar setup here.
The more I look, the more I like it, Nick. So yeah, good call on that
out. Nick, if you want to drop your Venmo in after Caleb cashes something using this 3, I'm sure he got you.
You can drop it either way. I'll just request money if he loses.
Oh man, I was laughing in the Discord. Someone was trying to find Joel, which Joel Rosario was the real one to send the Venmo request. It's pretty.
I just want, before we move on real quick, I just wanted to ask: did either of you guys give a look to the 8 Bopio? This was a horse that was, kind of a big steam horse, like way back, in his debut. Went off at even money. Came back and actually won a grade 3 at Saratoga. Wiring on the turf, and then came back in a grade 2 at Keeneland, and sat close to a very, very fast pace that fell apart. And the winner is a nice horse. Kind of just ran evenly, and then clearly didn't handle the slop last time, so just ignore that. But been off for a while. Mark Cassidy, not my favorite guy in these situations, but at 12 to 1, that horse, it doesn't feel like he should be 12 to 1 to me. What do you guys think?
I think if you look at Bolt de Oro and Scat Daddy, those are both really, prodigious, connects or pedigrees. I just wonder if this is a horse that with anticipation was a really good race. Did this horse just kind of get good and then it hasn't necessarily taken that step forward? At 12 to 1, there's a price that it makes sense. 12 to 1, 15 to 1 range that you're probably going to get here. Yeah, I can totally see taking a shot on that kind of horse. I just found other players, other new faces more interesting in this spot.
Yeah, I don't want to talk the horse to death. We covered a lot of these. It's hard for me to say that he hasn't improved when he hasn't raced since October, and he hasn't been on the turf since his pretty decent, Bourbon Stakes. But I just feel like this horse might get a little overlooked compared to the horses with more recent form and better figures, simply because he hasn't raced since October of his 2-year-old season. But he might be another that I could throw in at a price, But if he does get bet down, then there is a price that I would need on that horse.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because when you go back and you look at the races the horses run, right? Broke its maiden, and if you kind of throw out, like you said, the two, the I don't want to say like there's like extenuating circumstances, but there's two extreme circumstances, right? You got the slop, which it seems like the horse didn't take to at all. It looks like Bolt Doros haven't been winning on the slop at all either. And then the Bourbon, that pace was just 22-1, 45-4 on the Keeneland turf. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And but yeah, the other races, the maiden race, and I think that turf, that first turf route, they both fit. And Bolt Doro's been winning on the turf. So yeah, that's a good call out. That's definitely some very, very dirtied up form there. And off the layoff, I mean, this does look like a horse that maybe it's just got to improve a little bit. I don't think it has to improve a ton from that with anticipation to be a player in this race. So it's a good call out, Caleb. If Mark made the point, I wouldn't have complimented, and I would have. But good job, Caleb.
No, you would have absolutely hated the horse and just doubled down on tossing it. Yeah.
I swear, like Mark will say something and Caleb will say something, and it just sounds so much smarter when Caleb says it. I don't know why.
I mean, that's because Caleb said it. He just sounds much smarter than I do. I sound like an idiot because I am an idiot.
All right, we're gonna be sprinting again here on the dirt. The forward gal on 7 furlongs here, grade 3 for the 3-year-old fillies, and I think I wasn't super creative in this spot here. Your morning line favorite is Atomically, and that was a horse I think I might have talked. I don't know if Caleb liked it or if I talked Caleb into it, but I thought that this horse was going to be super sneaky and win the BC Juvenile. Going into Todd's barn, but didn't really run much in that race. So. Definitely coming way back down in class here in this spot, and the horse is run very well here at Gulfstream. I don't think that's not for nothing. Figures on the Briz scale definitely fit in here for this horse. My concern is really going to be price. Like what price are you going to get on a Todd Pletcher horse that previously ran in the BC Juvenile? I don't know. I think that this is probably going to be an underlay. I have the horse marked as an A. I think this is a really, really likely winner in this spot. But if this horse goes off at like, I don't know, 6-5 or 7-5 or something just stupid like that, I really just don't want any part of that. I honestly, the horse that I'm very interested in is this Churchill Down shipper coming in, red carpet ready for Georgia Arnold. Luis Saez sees fit to ride here. This is going to be a forwardly placed horse, has shown speed going at 6 and 6.5. So I don't think 7 is going to be problem. Coming out of a key race in November November 26th here. And like I said, you get Luis Saez aboard, who's been riding just about as good as anybody at Gulfstream Park right now. Aggressive on the dirt. And I think that Churchill's speed is usually legitimate speed, right? It's not going to be. I think that Kentucky has some of the most fair tracks in the country, and I think that like if you can show speed on those Kentucky tracks, that does carry down. Coming down to Florida, I think it's less so for like West Coast. I think the West Coast tracks are a little bit more souped up. So when I see a horse shipping from Churchill, that's one good races on the front end of Churchill. I always pay attention. I tend to think that these horses sometimes are a little bit under bet, but that could all just be like hearsay. Like maybe I'm just imagining it, But I don't know. I think Red Carpet Ready is coming in here with a really big shot. 2 for 2 and gets Luis Saez aboard. I really see nothing wrong with it. So, Mark, what did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I also landed on Red Carpet Ready. I was talking with Nick in chat that it feels like he's reading my notes again. No, this is a horse that's shown, has shown quite a bit of speed early on. And she won by as many as she wanted to in both of her, both of her first two starts. That last start, the second place horse came back and won. So, somewhat flattered by that. I think Red Carpet Ready is extremely interesting here. Again, Louis does decide to ride as a massive jockey upgrade. And, I think Louis is really riding well right now. So I thought Red Carpet Ready was a really interesting horse. I thought the other horse that I sort of thought was real interesting in here was Lynx, the 6 horse, another Rosario horse, a horse that got to draw, they're getting kind of a cutback to what I think this one really wants to be, kind of doing. The 5, 6, 7 furlong progression was pretty good. Horse looked really good. Stretched this one out. Did not look nearly as good, and then they're finally cutting back. And I think this is probably just what this one wants to do. These sort of 6, 7 furlong distances, and I think Lynx will probably get a little lost on the board. So that 6-1 morning line, makes quite a bit of sense in here for a horse that fits on all the figures that I end up looking at. And there's a bunch of horses in here that I think end up taking a lot of money. I imagine Caleb will dunk on a couple of them. I do have a price play I want to get to, but let me throw it over to Caleb because I'm sure he's going to dunk on the horse that I was just about ready to dunk on.
Yeah, so I think at the rate we're going right here, that Red Carp Ready is going to be 2-1 in this field because I think we're all pretty big fans of this horse, and I mean for good reason. I think no need for me to really talk much more about him after what Josh and Mark already said, but that would probably be my top pick in here as well. I think he just makes a lot of sense. Atomically is a horse that I'm not really sure what to do with. He's a horse that I would almost guarantee is going to be an underlay, and he's going to take more money than I would equate with his chances to win. But sometimes you get to these horses in the horizontal sequences that sometimes you have to take an underlaid favorite just to get through a sequence because if they win, then it doesn't really matter. So I don't know really what I'm going to do with him. I don't even know if I'm going to play the sequence, to be honest. But I have a lot of concerns about this horse. I think he gets overbet off the Breeders' Cup race, or she gets overbet off the Breeders' Cup race. Beating up on Florida bred, that's unclear what was in some of those races. Saez jumps off to get on a horse he's never been on, and Jose takes the mount here, who was really not Pletcher's first or second call. So there's a lot of question marks for me on that horse. I'm not really sure what to make out of that. So other than the 8 Red Carpet Red, the horse that I actually landed on is a bomb, although I don't think you'll get this price.
I thought you were going to say the Chad Brown horse. Ooh.
Absolutely not. No. I mean, Chad Brown horses that break their maiden at aqueducts like in November.
There's the dunking on I was waiting for. There it is.
Absolutely not. I mean, a 5-horse field. I mean, no chance. That horse can win, but not with my money. The horse that I like, actually, that I think can win, or if he can't win, then he can at least lose with my money, is going to be the number 1, Flakes, believe it or not, who this horse isn't usually in the mold of horses I like to bet, but I was just really impressed with her debut effort. I thought it was extremely professional. Broke inwards a little bit, but made a nice bid off the pace and just ran away from that field, which turned out to be okay. I mean, the second place horse came back to improve by 10 points next out on time for him, and the show horse came back to win next out. So that field maybe had some quality to it. The figure on, really time form and Brisnet is solid. I mean, and if you project improvement second time out, then there's certainly reason to be optimistic about this horse's chances. Gets a nice draw, is able to come off the pace, shouldn't be too far off the pace though. Has a couple nice works coming out of that maiden score. So yeah, I think Flag's the horse. I don't think you get 20-1 because I think she'll get bet down a little more than that. But I thought that she was pretty interesting in here because once again, there's a lot of these grade 3s that just seem really weak to me. I mean, maybe I'm just misremembering these races as being better historically than they were, but I mean, a lot of horses that have nothing but a maiden score or Florida breds once again. So, why can't a horse like this upset the table against, a bunch of relatively unproven horses?
Road Warrior has stoked the fires and has called for a
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I've just always I don't know, I haven't held like grade 3s in like the best regards. I kind of feel like that's like I grade threes and listed stakes. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think there's a big difference between those, but yeah, I don't know. This field doesn't really it doesn't do anything for me, right? Like you don't see any horses that have even run. I mean, the four ran in the Delmar debutante and finished seventh by 39 lengths, right? Um, but you don't have a lot of those horses that ran in big races at two, coming back and running in this race at three. So yeah, um, it's a pretty weak field. Um, Mark, any interest in betting a 9-2 Julian Leperoux horse that just broke his maiden?
No.
No.
That was not the jockey I was going to dunk on. I was hoping you were going to call on me so I can dunk on a different jockey. But no, I would say I know you guys have briefly talked on it on Atomically. I don't think this is really what Atomically wants to be doing. I think that's just a horse that wants to probably be going a little further than this. And I just I think there's so many question marks. I think she, probably ends up really short, and I think she's the kind of horse that you want to get around in this type of a situation. But Michael in chat mentioned one horse that I was a little interested in, and that is the 2 Twice as Sweet. This is when we're talking about jockeys again, and Tyler Gaffleon is not a jock I really love to bet because he hurts me consistently. But this is a horse with every other type of pattern. And this is the every of that sort of pattern. I realized the 2-back race was at Laurel, but that on most products, that 2-back over a good track is the best figure for this horse. Horses never actually missed the exacta on and off track, and they're calling for a bit of rain on Saturday afternoon in southern Florida. They're calling for, I think it was like 0.3 or 0.4 of an inch. So if you get a little rain, definitely moves this one's chances up. But I wonder if this one maybe doesn't even need it. If this is just, kind of a nice spot for a horse that this is probably the trip that this 2 wants. And this is a horse that, given Brendan Walsh's barn's been kind of cold, might be one that gets let go at a bit of a price and is a little bit more live than what I think. I think the figures from especially from the 2 or the 3-back, even that Keeneland optional 100 fit pretty well here with just a little bit of a step forward. So it's a horse that I think you're going to get a lot of value on. And I thought Twice as Sweet was quite interesting in the spot.
Caleb, Mark has forced my hand. All right.
Go ahead.
And I need a bumper for this. I'll figure one out. What do I got here? I guess we'll call the post here, Caleb. All right. And so we got to call the post here, and we have a 4-horse race. All right. We have a 4-horse race coming up here, Caleb. In stall number 1 is Parks Figures. All right. Stall number 2, you got Los Al Figures. Stall number 3, you got maybe the long shot of the field, which is Laurel Figures, and stall number 4, right? You got Gulfstream Park 7.5 for a long trip Figures. All right, who wins this race?
Oh man, I think Los Alfeg's got to be the heavy favorite. I think they sprint out to a clear lead, but I think the Gulfstream Turf Figs are the dark horse because people don't pay attention to timing issues. I think they're the dark horse in here. So I think Los Al gets nailed at the wire by Gulfstream, and Parks has gotten a little better. So I guess we'll say that Laurel rounds out the trifecta.
All right. Well, congratulations to Gulfstream Park 7.5.
See, this was a little rigged though, because you expected the Lord of Parks to beat down on his own tracks. Figs, really? Come on now.
I don't know. Maybe I thought he'd try and get a win in there for Parks. You never know, man. Yeah, I guess there's a little bit more to this race. There's a little bit more interesting. I mean, obviously, if all of us land on this 8, this horse is going to be 5-2 or worse in the gate. So. Hey, maybe Atomically ends up being a fair value. Who knows? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Speaking of fake turf and fake turf figures, here we go. The Swedish Chant going to mile 16th on the turf, and Mark, where do you kind of land in this race here?
I was very uncreative in this race. I mean, I know the morning line states, I think what Cairo Consort is your morning line favorite at 2-1. I just really, Bear simpler, really. You've gotten creative with these, yeah. No, but I actually is it done yet? Are we done yet? Okay, there it goes.
There's always one more than I think.
It goes on forever. No, I ended up on the I ended up on the one. Sweet Lou's got aces. The Ray Handle horse in here. I this
Fuck.
one seems to be. What was that?
I said, "Fuck, you landed on the same horse I did," and I'm sitting here calling all the alerts
Oh,
out
you're
for
dunking on me. Yeah.
God bless.
We got a couple
time,
of cents
time,
in this group.
seriously. Time Form really loved both those last two races. They came back and kind of tower over this field. They look pretty darn good. You're getting rail post draw here. This one should, very much be your controlling pace with Joe Rosario, where if you get the good Rosario, I think this horse is absolutely loaded for bear. Very turf, speed favoring, Gulfstream turf course should get you out there, get out to the front end, do whatever he wants. And I thought that improvement, in that improvement in the Tepin with Rosario last out was, a pretty massive improvement. I don't even think this one needs to take much of a step forward to be a player here. I think run back to that Tepin performance, and I think this one is going to be extremely tough on this spot. And I have the horse as a lone A. It's where I want most of my money going through in this spot. So Josh, I know you said you landed in the same spot.
Yeah, I landed on the same horse. And maybe I'm like simplifying it too much, but I mean, these horses usually coming from that have run at Saratoga, ran at Belmont, and then just run in New York on the turf there. I mean, they're usually just a class above. So I know you got a couple other horses that have already run here at Gulfstream. You got a Turfway shipper. You got one coming from Woodbine, Keeneland. I don't know. I just tend to think that this has probably been facing better and has been winning races. Winning that listed stakes last time out. So yeah, I kind of I had a hard time looking past the one as my three cannot catch up to this 11 unreal at Turfway Park there. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that this one fit, and I definitely think that being on the rail and having some speed, I think is going to be a plus for this horse. But Caleb, where did you land here?
Yeah, so I respect the one. I don't like Rosario on this horse at all. It feels like he's forgotten how to ride. I mean, he's so passive. He's not putting horses where they're supposed to be. I mean, he's 11%, and with the quality of the mounts he's getting, it feels like he should be much higher than that. So I don't think I'm so jaded against him that I wouldn't use this horse, but I'm jaded enough I don't trust him to do the right thing with this horse. And because of that, my top pick is actually number 8, Heavenly Sunday. So it looks like I agree with Nick there, who must have my notes as well. This is a horse that ran 2 really nice races as a 2-year-old, both 2-turn turf races, and those races are really good. If you look at the figures, those races are not good enough to win, but those came a long time ago. And, at this point, you have to think this horse is going to have taken a pretty decent step forward from October of her 2-year-old season to, February of her 3-year-old season. So I really think this horse is going to be an awful handful if she shows up with that improved effort that I'm expecting in here. So Heavenly Sunday is my top pick in here. I think she gets a great trip just off the pace, or could perhaps even set the pace if Rosario decides to Rosario too hard. So yeah, I really do like the 8 in here. The other horse that I kind of gave a look to in this field was the 3, who I think you mentioned briefly, Josh. This is a horse that I'm not really convinced she's an absolute dead one-run closer in this field. She kind of blew the break and does have Leparoux, so it wasn't obviously asked for much speed early, but put in a really nice run late, against moderate fractions. The horse that she beat there was the Stephanie's Charm, the number 9. She was only beaten half a length to Cairo Consort, who's the favorite, in that race last time out in I guess it's the Ginger Brew. But at any rate, I think that Mally Moo has a lot of upside in here. So I think she's one that it wouldn't surprise me to see her a little more forward. I don't think she'll be near the lead, but I think she could be mid-pack or so. And with a better trip, I mean, she's kind of one that I think has just a ton of upside in a field like this, and very well may get overlooked because of the likes of Cairo Consort and Sweet Lou's got aces down the fence there.
Let's take a look at chat.
I would say there's only one other horse I wanted to mention, and it's a bit of a price. I don't know
Go
if it's
for it, man.
worthwhile.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 6 horse in here, Bulsara. I thought that Bulsara was a little interesting. I thought that Tappan wasn't terrible. Came from way too far out of it, and maybe been just passing tired horses, but made a pretty. Was a little rank early, and there's definitely some excuses. And it was coming running late, and then it was very much bet like a good thing last time out at Turfway and that optional 50. Corrala's got that one home quite nicely and kind of made it one big driving stretch move. You're getting Reyes here. I don't know what. Well, Reyes probably isn't my my favorite jock to be on here, but I thought that two back, the last 2 performances make this horse kind of a player in this spot. Going to be able to sit back, watch the pace scenario, and maybe this is one that really has that turn of foot and kind of power home late. You're definitely going to get your price on the 6. From connections that probably don't take a lot of money, and I think Time Form thinks this one's a player here with not much improvement as well. So I thought the Bulsara was a little bit interesting here. I wonder if that's just a real bad morning line, or maybe I really do get 15 to 1 on a horse that I find a little bit interesting.
Uncle Sully asking, what happens if this race ends up on Tapeta? I think they are supposed to get some weather.
Yeah, Bulsara can handle it. That's one you definitely handles it. It's always a scratch game when it goes on to PETA. Are the people saying, okay, this is a turf horse, or oh geez, I think the horse can run on turf or or the synth. Bulsara probably takes a lot of money off that last out win. I don't know who else takes money in here. It would really depend on what was that?
The 4 maybe if it gets washed off. Metaphysical.
Yeah, off that win there.
Yeah.
I would imagine the one,
maybe.
No.
It depends who stays in. I think the 1 probably takes some money as well, just being kind of the controlling pace, and you still have kickback on synth. So
I noticed nobody liked the IRAD Todd Pletcher horse in this race.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that horse because this was by American standards, a very heavily raced 2-year-old. And, she ran a respectable race in the Breeders' Cup, juvenile Philly turf, and then went backwards in her first start for Todd Pletcher. I know she won the race, but on any speed figure metric you look at, she went backwards, and visually she didn't really win that race the way that you'd like to see your 1-2 favorite win that race. It just didn't look like a very visually impressive race. She was really under a drive for a while. So yeah, I don't necessarily want to take her at what I assume is going to be a very short price. She's one who I think may have already peaked and might just be a little bit over the top. So she's not for me.
Yeah, same thought for me. I think this is very much like Anatomically in the prior race, where does this horse take another step forward? Is this this is a horse I think is going to be overbet substantially relative to odds of winning the race. You made that face, Josh.
Did you just say anatomically?
Or atomically? Sorry, yeah. Atomically.
I was like, what are you saying?
I added extra letters. That happens sometimes. So this is why Caleb sounds smart and I don't.
There you go. Well, that brings us to our last race here for the night. Holy Bull. Shout out to the Holy Bull boys going down to Gulfstream. Was unable to make it work due to not booking my flight early enough, and then flights just getting stupid expensive all of a sudden. So, but we're gonna be going to mile 16th here on the dirt, and this is not a great rendition of the Holy Bull. We talked about the Pegasus last week not having star power, but yeah, this is kind of a weak group of horses. Your morning line favorite's the 4 here, Cyclone Mischief for Dale Romans, who broke his maiden at Keeneland, ran at grade 2, and then came back and won an optional claimer. Got a nice figure there going a mile. but I don't know. This doesn't typically seem like the type of horse that's going to be 2-1 on the morning line in a early grade 3 for 3-year-olds here. So, um, I kind of landed on the 6. Legacy Isle for Luis Saez and Rohan Crichton here. Um, I just think winning the kind of the local prep for this race, the Mucho Macho Man, and winning it on the front end, is setting very very honest fractions, going 22 and 3, 45 and 1. Um, I think he's going to be tough to beat here up here on the front end. Kind of just doing uh, the quick pace look. It doesn't really seem like there's a ton of there like just like, hey, I need the lead type speed. I mean, I think the pace is going to be honest, and I think even if this horse gets out there on the front end by himself, I think he's going to set an honest pace. But I don't know. I think that this could be a possibility he gets out there uncontested, and I think the only other horse that maybe I might be a little bit worried about them maybe gets out there in the front end is this 2 West Coast Cowboy, but you know went out on the front end in the slop, and then last time out was more than happy to sit off of Legacy Isle, setting those fractions, and just ran an even fourth, not really making up any ground. So I really didn't know what to do with the 2. Just seeing that it was a much bigger price, and maybe it has a possibility of showing some speed, I was a little bit interested in. But I don't know. I was curious where you guys kind of landed. Caleb, where did you land here?
Yeah, so I guess where I started is not with Cyclone Mischief. And I'll admit, on paper, this horse probably does make sense. You could argue that maybe he's an every other type, and this is kind of due for his dud. But his duds aren't really duds; they're just not wins. But for me, I just have a really, really hard time ever trusting a Dale Romans horse to run how it looks. And if it looks like the horse is supposed to win, then I just feel like it never does. Um, I still have Dennis's moment, PTSD, and everything else. So I just can't use this horse, but I don't have a ton of analytical reasons why. So maybe I don't sound that smart, but I think there's other horses in here that are probably just as good that you'll probably get a better price on. There's probably 3 that I'm interested in. One of them you already mentioned, Josh, was the 6. The other horse I like is actually another horse that came out of that race, the number 1, Lord Miles. So you pointed out that the pace of the race in the Mucho Macho Man was quick. And I mean, you're right. It was a swift pace, 22 and 45. But the horses that were 1-2 were 1-2 the entire race. So there was really not any closing going on in that race despite the fast pace. Lord Miles was the only horse to really make up any ground. He kind of came from pretty far back and was flying late to just miss. He does sort of strike me as he's a curling horse. He's going to get better with racing. He's going to get better with age. He's going to get better with distance. So I do like the stretch out here. I like the addition of blinkers. I think there's a lot of things to like about this. I'm not going to try to make sense out of the jockey swap. I don't know why Zayas would go to the 2 if he had an option. So I'm assuming he didn't. I mean, IRAD is more than adequate, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I do like the 1 Lord Miles, and the other horse I liked was the number 8 Rocket Can, who is another horse that won't be on the lead, but I think projects to sit probably a perfect trip, sitting about 3rd going into the turn. He needs to save some ground because that post can be tough going a mile and 16th at Gulfstream, especially with a short stretch. But he is a horse that's already got a win at this distance, and then a second by half a length at this distance as well in his last start. So he's the horse that I just always like to see, a horse that's proven at a distance, especially these young 3-year-olds trying something new for largely the first time, as many of these horses try to take on 2 turns for the first time. So yeah, I really like Rocket Cannon here. I mean, these are very strong connections. That has Candyman Rocket and Frank's Rocket and all these other horses that are owned by Frank Fletcher's stable. He tends to get good ones, and his good ones tend to come out during the winter down in Florida. So I think Rocket Can might be a horse that could be not a price, but might be a decent bet at 3 or 4 to 1.
Is it bad that I don't feel like I could bet the 1 Lord Miles because it reminds me a little too much of that horse that flopped last week?
Miles D.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I think he's actually also a curling horse, if I remember correctly.
I wonder if it's like the same same ownership group, whatever. But sorry, Mark, I know I cut you off. You were probably going to say something very profound.
No, I was not gonna. I was gonna say I agreed with you. That's clearly not profound. But no, I very much agree with Legacy Isle. I think this horse makes a ton of sense. Horses, cross the wire first 3 times in a row. All local. I thought it was a little bit interesting that the local jock gets taken off in replacement for Saez. So, to me that screams like the trainer thinks that they have a more national horse, a horse that's maybe a potential Derby type horse, and they want a jock who's a little more comfortable on that big spotlight. So I thought Legacy Isle made all the sense in the world here. No reason that the Son of Shackelford shouldn't be able to get the extra 16th off the last start. I realize it's an additional turn, but I don't really think that matters that much. And I think Legacy Isle is an absolute major player. They're going to go. Louis going to try to put him to sleep on the front end and play catch me if he can top of the stretch. There's no secrets here to this one. But I expected this horse to be a lot shorter on the morning line than he is. I don't know if other connections that are bigger names take money, but I think 7-2 is very fair on Legacy Isle, who of the sort of big names is the horse I was most interested in. And I know that Caleb mentioned Rocket Can, who I also like the 8 horse here for Bill Mott. I also thought a little interesting that the other Mott in here, the 3 horse Shadow Dragon, who is 15-1 on the morning line. Something clearly happened and went south in that Sleepy Hollow. Jose Ortiz though ends up on this one. And I would imagine that Jose is getting the better mounts than Junior is. Maybe I'm wrong with the Mott barn, but I'm showing the stat of when Jose is up for Mott in the last year at Gulfstream, they're 46% together. So I'm assuming that he's getting the best of the Mott barn. And the fact that this one is such a big price and Jose gets up, I know the pedigree doesn't really scream 2-turn router, but Bill Mott does aggressively places horses from time to time, but he doesn't normally put them in impossible spots. And on paper, this looks like an impossible spot. So I wonder if this one's maybe been showing something in the morning. A couple decent works in there, and they're obviously getting the class test here. So at a big price, I thought Shadow Dragon was kind of interesting in this spot.
I mean, even Road Warrior says the horse has no chance, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
That's like if Road Warrior calls a Chad Brown horse fake, like
it's fake.
But here's the thing: if Shadow Dragon had won at Belmont, he would think it's the fastest horse that's ever lived. So I mean, you got to take it for what it is.
It won at Belmont at the Big A.
Sixer saying he strongly dislikes this Holy Bull.
Do any of these horses make the Kentucky Derby gate?
No. Well, this is South Florida. The horse is going to go in it.
Maybe.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, if the six won the local prep, and improves and wins the Holy Bull, and then comes back and does well in the Florida Derby, maybe. I know. The Risen Star, or not the Risen Star. What's the other one that's in there?
For the Florida preps?
Yeah.
Fountain of Youth.
Fountain of Youth. There you go.
Fountain of Youth, yeah.
The Fountain of Youth, whatever. But maybe. But I kind of feel like, and maybe we've talked about this, but I kind of feel like now, with the way the Derby point system is, you just don't see very many of these horses in the first prep. I think last year was it Epicenter. Did Epicenter run in all 3, or did he only show up in the Risen Star?
He ran in all of them.
He ran all of them. So like there's a chance that you see one that shows up in all 3 of the preps, but I just don't think it's going to be as common as it was. I mean, it's definitely not going to happen on the in California. I mean, no one's going to get any Derby points for that race. So
yeah, Sixer. I think who was that? Yeah, Sixer brings up a good point. Like, somebody here might, simply because the Cali horses aren't earning any points right now. But you'd have to think that before all is said and done, similar to last year, those horses will be transferred to a new barn.
Yeah, and I mean, but you also have the thing of like last year we had, for years the Florida preps have been the best preps, right? Then last year out of nowhere the Florida preps were abysmally bad. So you could also get a situation like that where, maybe the 6 is just the best of the best of what's in Florida. I would assume, given how loaded it appears Baffert is, that he's going to have one in all of the big point preps to try to get them in the Derby starting gate. So maybe he does send somebody to Florida for the Florida Derby, but I mean, and again, he can't send them there. So Bill Mott will train this horse through the Florida Derby and the in the Kentucky Derby, and then it'll be moved back to the Baffert barn after that or something. But
You guys are quite a bit higher on the 6 than I am. Like, I like the 6; he's fine, but I don't think he has a prayer making the gate. I think this horse has distance limitations, and I don't expect Rohan Crichton to get a Derby horse when he hasn't even won a graded stakes in his career. So yeah, for me, I don't see this horse as being the one. If I was going to take anybody, it maybe would be the 8 or somebody, at least some more proven connections at that stage. But I don't think we see any of these horses make the gate.
do you think we've seen the Derby horse, your Derby winner,
bet on that, Caleb?
That the 6 won't make the Derby gate?
That none of these horses make the Derby gate.
I'll bourbon bet on that, yeah.
Bourbon bet? All right, it's done. We're I gotta have something for that, right?
That's a new one. I haven't used that one yet.
Let me I gotta mark that down somewhere. Maybe we need to do so. There's maybe that's something we'll do every week, right? We'll do something. There's a podcast I used to listen to all the time. It was called Fantasy Football Focus. It's still around, but the big guy who used to do it is the guy who's on like NBC now. Who's the ESPN guy? Oh, Matthew Berry. And so he went through a couple different co-hosts, right? But one of the things that he did that I always thought was fun was just through the year, they would make bets, and they would say, put them on a board, right? They put them on a board, they'd keep a list. And then at the end of the year, they'd revisit and see who basically won the most of these bets. I think it might be a fun little thing to do maybe during Derby season. Get
the board up.
Get a board going here. So I will. I'm going to open up a Google Sheets here while we get this going. But yeah, I mean, we looked at the Robert B. Lewis, and it really just seems like Baffert just put in his also rans. So I mean that's not that that's surprising by any stretch of the imagination, but I really just think that the best we've seen the best Baffert horse already, I think, so far in Arabian Night, and I was very surprised thinking that he was running 1 week back out west, but apparently there's Arabian Lion, which is not to be confused by Arabian Night. But I know, Caleb, that is your favorite Derby horse currently.
Arabian Night.
Arabian Night. So
any kind of night horse.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I outside of that horse, Arabian Night, I don't know if we've seen any of the Derby contenders yet this year. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Mark.
I honestly don't know. I really haven't been. Yeah, the whatever the Baffert that was last week at Oaklawn, whatever the hell it's named. That horse was impressive. Beyond that, I haven't really been impressed with any of the 3-year-olds. There's no horse that I'm super excited to see run back. There's nobody I'm super amped up over. I tend to think we haven't seen those Derby horses yet, and I think people are playing those games now where obviously Christopher Apollo is gone, so I think people are okay not showing up with their monsters until the next month or so. So I tend to believe you're going to see a bunch of horses step forward, and we just haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, I mean, I can't point to a horse and be like, "This is my Derby horse," because I haven't seen that yet. I think that I think we probably have seen the Derby horse race already at this point, but it maybe isn't a horse that has a high profile. It maybe isn't a horse that won a Breeders' Cup juvenile race. It maybe isn't Forte. It might be a horse that just broke his maiden in November and hasn't been back to the races since. But I would say we've probably seen them run. Some of the more fancy choices, Instant Coffee or Forte or whatever. I'm not sure those are that I'm totally sold yet. I'm still waiting for Loggins to make a return. He's the horse I was very impressed with even though he lost. I was very impressed in that race he had to Forte at Keeneland. And it doesn't sound like he's going to get back in time to make the Kentucky Derby gate, unfortunately. But he's one that I do think is interesting.
I mean, since we got a couple of minutes, but obviously with the Pegasus happening last week, right? And that's kind of really the start of. I mean, I know it's super early, but it's kind of the start where we start to see what the older horse division is going to be. Do you think that we've really seen? I mean, outside of any of the horses from last year, like maybe like Taiba or, I mean, I guess our collector at this point, like who else do we have? Like, or do you think that there's a chance that we get like a Catalina Cruiser type or something, someone that really kind of comes out in their 4-year-old season that didn't really race much at their 3-year-old, to kind of come in and kind of take over this older horse division? Or do you think that it's just going to be like Channel Maker, Sadler's Joy, and Channel Cat, and who else am I missing? Spooky Channel. I don't know who else we got in there. I know, Caleb, I'm just throwing daggers at you at this point. But I mean, what do we make of this older horse division at this point?
This is the time of year where it feels like you can't make anything out of it, because generally the best horses of the older horse division are generally retired at this stage. They went to the Breeders' Cup, they went to the Pegasus. They may stick around for Saudi Arabia or Dubai, but generally, like, they're not going to stick around much longer than that. So it's also the point where the 3-year-olds are a total unknown, so you don't know who's who yet. So it's always tough. I think Taiba's got to be the horse to beat right now. I mean, given what he's done as a 3-year-old, and assuming he hasn't lost anything in the last couple of months since his romp in the Malibu. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see a ton of other horses that are 4, 5, 6 years old that I'm like, oh yeah, this horse can go with Taiba. I just haven't seen it yet, but hopefully they're out there somewhere.
One horse I'm really excited to see, and I've been saying this forever, we're going to see him back. Yep, here we go. Going to see him on Sunday, and that's Charge It. I don't know if he can go with a Taiba or anybody else, right? But I'm really hopeful that they can keep him sound and he can get a decent campaign out of the way. Really?
That's what Charge It does for me.
Really?
No, I didn't mean to hit it twice.
Yeah, you did. Don't lie, you did.
It's all right. You know who else loves Charge? Well, wait. Does Low Proof, does he love Simplification or Charge It, or both?
Oh, I don't remember.
By the way, Caleb,
all I know is I'm excited. I'm excited to see Charge It.
We gave Matthew DeSantis the nickname Low Proof.
Nice.
I'm more excited to see, I think, Charge It run on Sunday than I am the entire Saturday card. So,
is Express Train retired? That's a good question. I haven't seen him run in a long time.
Dude, if we're hoping that Express Train is just like put out right now and is going to come back, and that's oh man, that's like hoping Combatant
whatever
is coming back at some point.
I will say that I don't think any of the horses that exit the Pegasus should even be in the conversation for best older dirt horse, despite how bad that
race was terrible.
I don't know, man. I mean, what do you think? You think our collector goes overseas now?
That was his last race. He's retired.
They're retiring our collector?
Was it?
Dude, you gotta be flipping kidding me that they're retiring Art Collector.
I thought so. I could be wrong.
That is, I know the retired Cyber Knight. That's ridiculous that they're retiring Art Collector.
I could be mistaken, but I thought I heard that they were.
He's probably got a stud deal already.
The division, I think, is going to be, I mean, the older dirt division is going to suck, right? Until we see a couple of new horses show up. The division that's really going to be scary bad is what do you do with the older turf division? The older male turf division is horrendously bad. I'm sure Chad Brown's got 6 horses that are in the older filly, turf division, but the older males are just, oh man, who's even left in that category? That's, oh God.
I mean, I was I bet Channel Maker last time out.
Yeah, we know you did. We mocked you when
So-
you said you were going to do it, as you should have been by how he ran. And yeah, he needs to be like at some county fair doing pony rides or something. Like it's just
Well, put
it's
some
time.
respect on his name. He ran a huge figure 6 years ago.
The Caleb
But I chased for like 4 of those years.
Michael saying that he saw a picture on Twitter of Express Train galloping, so get pumped. I mean, because like, there was a time where I think Caleb, you and I at least, were a little excited for Stiletto Boy, and he just kind of hasn't done anything since the Pegasus last year.
Actually,
Yeah, he's kind of turned into just one of those horses that likes to cash checks, but
Like
not
Express
exactly a
Train.
win animal.
I was gonna say, to Road Warrior's comment, if Warlike Goddess comes, I realize I didn't know if they were running her back this year. I thought she might have retired as well. But if they run her, she could clean house in the older male division. Quite honestly, because she's already shown she could beat them up pretty badly, and all the ones that I think were a challenge to her are gone now. So that would be actually a really interesting year if she was very competitive and was able to win some of the sword dancers and those types of races.
Yeah, she can beat the boys all year and then still get snubbed for female turf.
Dude, that was the Eclipse voters are. I love Andrew, but there's a lot of idiots that are Eclipse Ward voters. I mean, there was a couple of those that were just
Andrew
criminal.
probably included, but
Well, I mean, I think he abstained from a steeple race, and the steeple was criminal. That was not okay.
what about
It's
Royal
not okay.
Ship? Is Royal Ship still around?
Who?
Royal Ship.
Oh,
that
him
like
and
Dr.
Country
Post?
Grammar.
Yeah, Crunchy Grammar. Country Grammar's still around, or he retired too?
He's still around, I think.
Tripoli.
I think he fell off.
Extra Hope.
Are you just looking down the Californian horses now?
Yeah, he is.
I
He's just
am.
naming all the California horses that no one cares
Right,
about.
because they're the ones that don't get stud deals because they suck. Parnelli. Oh man, we're really I'm really.
When was the last time Parnelli ran?
I don't know. I just saw that name and I was like, woof. Oh, here it is. Sixer with the shot heard around the world. Slow Down Andy will win a Grade 1 in 2023. Warrant is still out there. Okay,
now he just followed it up with even worse.
Warrant. So who are the other Brad Cox horses that are randomly out there that won those those also ran derbies? Warrant win the Texas Derby at Sam Houston.
What about Zandon? Is he still a thing?
It's the Chad Brown horse.
The Chad
right?
Brown horse, yeah.
Let's find out. Zandon horse. Horse Racing Nation. Do they have him retired? They do not have him retired. He ran in the Cigar Mile, along with Get Her Number, White Abario, and Mind Control.
Those are all horses.
It's a pretty hungry group, I guess we can conclude.
Very hungry.
Maybe it's Rich Strike's time to shine.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna tell you, like, as much as people have made fun of him, and I know, like, that he lost to Clark, but the figures stand up. He ran back to decent numbers in the Travers, and right, it was the Travers. I think he ran.
He always runs well. He never runs poorly, and mad respect on them for showing up and trying. I mean, he's a horse I'm honestly a little bit excited to see for this year. It'd be nice to see him. Nice to see a horse that you're going to see a bunch of times because that's how they're going to campaign.
I mean, he wins another graded stakes this year. I mean, guaranteed.
Oh yeah,
it's just a matter.
Yeah, I would honestly say he probably wins a G1 this year.
I was seeing. Were you trying to bait Caleb into taking that bet? It sounded like you were. But, Hot Rod Charlie. Didn't Hot Rod Charlie retired?
He's retired. He'd be a standout in that division, though. I think if he was still around.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But
yeah, Olympiad's retired.
We'll get one or two horses. Storm the Court is not.
Oh God!
Goodness gracious!
Let's just forget that.
It was up for Storm the Court when his sire got sent to like Nebraska or whatever. And then you're just
At least
like,
they get sent.
okay.
At least it didn't get sent to Turkey. That's.
We talking about Daredevil into Turkey, and now he's back, and I don't think he's done anything since he's come back, right?
He was back from Turkey from. Who was it that he sired? Was it She Dared the Devil or
She
somebody like
Dares
That
the
was
that?
Devil.
before.
She Dares the Devil.
That's what caused
That's what
Turkey
got it
to
back,
send.
right?
Yeah, She Dares the Devil and the other horse. Oh, who's the other? There's another Daredevil horse that was big that year. Why can't I think of it?
I know you're talking about, but I can't think of it either.
Let's see, Daredevil. Oh, great! Come on, Lane's End. Tell me. Oh, Swiss Skydiver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the other one. Okay, she was a Daredevil. Okay.
Yep. So, but yeah, thank you guys for hanging out and talking and chat. We always appreciate it. We will we're gonna have a stream up on Saturday. We'll figure out timing and we'll post it on Twitter and I'll try and get it scheduled no later than tomorrow morning on YouTube. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, you can see it on YouTube. But we'll be back live betting. Delta and Turfway for sure are on the menu, and we will see depending on what time we start. Maybe we get a little Santa Anita and Golden Gate in there as well. Maybe we put the Golden Hour as a possibility in the betting, and just kind of spice things up. And Caleb is already pulling down the Golden Hour PPs. After I said that.
Anything to get away from Delta and Turfway.
He's like, guys, I can only stream starting at 4 p.m., which will get me the last 4 races at Santa Anita. But yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah, catch us out at wrong_lead on Twitter, on thewronglead.com. Buy t-shirts. Sign up for AM Wager if you haven't. I think I heard from somebody that the sign up bonus might be a little different now. Might only be $200, but I will double check with our rep. But I know I had someone ask me about it, and they were getting they were told that the 100% up to 300 was no longer valid. So we'll either see if we can get that refreshed or just update with what the new promo is. But yeah, Mark, what do you plan on doing this weekend besides losing to me on Saturday?
Losing to you? What? We doing another Discord tournament? Because if we are, I will not be losing to you. But no, I'll probably be taking shots both Saturday and Sunday at getting an NHC qualifier. There's a couple of 165s. Horse Tourneys has one, and Horse Players has the other. So probably fire in both of those, and might try to get a first chance, last chance qualifier. Or I don't know. I might just buy in. That's the smarter thing to do.
Yes, that would have been the much smarter thing to do. And what's funny is that's what I told myself I was going to do. And then all of a sudden I got in this weird tournament kick, and I was just like, "Oh, I'll play one. Oh, I'll play one." And
So
next
how
thing
much
you
have
know,
you spent trying to qualify for a $500 buy-in tournament?
Next thing I added it up, and I'm like $470 into qualifiers and shit. So I am no longer playing any qualifiers, and we'll just buy in, But it is what it is. Caleb, what do you got going on this weekend?
Nothing in particular. It's kind of a slow time of racing for me because this is not my favorite track selection. So I'll play some Santa Anita. That's been pretty good to me lately, and then maybe jump in a couple tournaments because that's been pretty fun as well. But probably not going to be too involved with anything in particular.
All right. Well, it looks like Uncle Sully will have his tarot cards ready for Saturday, so we will catch you guys on Saturday. And yeah, let's get some winners home here.